You know, there's a specific kind of silence that happens right around 5 and on a Friday. Or maybe it's Sunday night. You know the one I'm talking about?
Oh, absolutely. It's that quiet moment after the noise of the week dies down, but the noise in your head starts turning up.
Exactly. It's that heavy sinking feeling where you look at the calendar and realize another week is gone, just evaporated, and you have to ask yourself the brutal question: did I actually move forward, or did I just spin the wheel for 5 days?
That is the haunting question. It's the difference between movement and progress. And I think that's exactly where we need to start today, because we're diving into a philosophy that is terrifyingly simple, yet most people spend their entire lives ignoring it until it's too late.
We are looking at the wisdom of the legendary Jim Rohn today, and specifically his golden rule that completely flips the script on how we view our careers and our lives.
Work hard on your job and you can make a living. Work hard on yourself and you can make a fortune.
That's the line. It sounds catchy, almost like a bumper sticker until you actually sit with it. Work hard on yourself. Most of us are taught the exact opposite. We're taught grind, put in the overtime, impress the boss, get the promotion.
Right? We are culturally conditioned to believe that the economy determines our income, that the company determines our value. But Rohn's philosophy is a cold splash of water. He's saying no. The marketplace doesn't pay for time, it pays for value. And value is something you bring to the table, not something you find there.
Let's unpack that because I feel like value is one of those corporate buzzwords that has lost all meaning. When Rohn talks about value, he's not talking about productivity spreadsheets, is he?
Not at all. Think of it this way. Imagine two people working at the same company, same desk, same hours. One is frantic, busy, sweating, doing everything they're told. The other is calm, reading books on leadership during lunch, learning a second language, mastering the psychology of sales. 5 years later, the first person is still at that desk, bitter about inflation. The second person is running the division. Why?
Because the second person became more valuable. They didn't just do more, they became more.
Precisely. Rohn had this way of putting it. He said, success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become. That is a profound shift. Most people are chasing success like it's a butterfly. They're running around with a net, exhausted. Rohn says, stop running. Build a beautiful garden. The butterfly will land on you.
That's a beautiful image, but let's play devil's advocate for a second, because I can hear the listeners thinking, that's nice, but I have bills to pay now. I don't have time to build a garden.
And that brings us to the tragedy of the urgent drowning out the important. This is where the concept of regret comes in. And this is the heavy part of Rohn's philosophy. He talks about the two pains in life.
The pain of discipline and the pain of regret.
Yes, and here's the math. Discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons.
Oof. Regret weighs tons.
It does. Think about the bill you mentioned. If you only work on your job, you will always be chasing that bill. You are trading time for money, and you have a limited amount of time. It's a losing equation. But if you carve out even 30 minutes a day, not to work on the company's problems, but to work on your mind, your skills, your philosophy, you are investing in the only asset that inflation can't touch.
It reminds me of that story, I think it was Rohn who told it, about the man who says, I'll start reading books when I have more time.
Someday someday I'll read, someday I'll exercise, someday I'll learn. The problem is the marketplace is indifferent to your someday. The marketplace is like the soil. It doesn't care if you're a good person or a bad person. It only cares what you plant. If you plant nothing, you harvest nothing. You can't beg the soil for a harvest in October if you didn't plant in the spring.
That's terrifyingly objective. The soil doesn't care.
It doesn't pity you, and that's why this conversation is about intentional living, and you have to be intentional about the seeds you are dropping into your mind. Rohn used to say, stand guard at the door of your mind. What are you letting in? Are you letting in distraction, gossip, fear, or are you letting in strategy, history, philosophy?
It's interesting you mention history and philosophy, because usually when people talk about self-improvement, they mean like learning Excel shortcuts or how to code. But Rohn seemed to focus on the deeper stuff, character, philosophy. Why is that?
Because skills become obsolete. Character is timeless. If you learn a specific software, that software might be gone in 5 years. But if you learn how to communicate, how to lead, how to handle adversity, how to set goals, those apply to everything. That's the fortune he's talking about. It's not just money in the bank, it's the fortune of being a person who can handle whatever life throws at them.
So, it's about becoming the kind of person who is essentially bulletproof?
In a way, yes. It's about being bigger than your problems. If you have a level 5 problem and you're a level 2 person, That problem is a mountain. It ruins your life. But if you work on yourself, work harder on yourself than your job, and you become a level 8 person, that level 5 problem, it's a speed bump. You step right over it.
I love that. The problem didn't shrink. You grew.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the time element. We are all drifting toward the end of the line. We don't like to talk about it, but the clock is ticking. Rohn had this melancholic but beautiful way of reminding us that we don't have unlimited seasons.
Life is only a few dozen springs.
That one always hits me hard. If you're 40, you don't have forever. You have maybe 30 or 40 more springs. That's it. You can count them on your hands and feet. So the question isn't, what am I getting paid per hour? The question is, what am I becoming per hour?
That perspective shift is crucial. But let's get practical for a moment. Someone listening is driving to work right now, or maybe they're washing dishes. They feel stuck. They feel like they've wasted the last 10 years. What do they do today? How do they start working on themselves without getting overwhelmed?
You start with the library, and I don't just mean physical books, though that's a huge part of it. I mean the information you consume. Rohn said, miss a meal if you have to, but don't miss a book.
That's intense.
It is. But think about it. The answers to every problem you have, financial, relational, health, are written down somewhere. Someone has already solved your problem and wrote a book about it. If you don't read it, you are choosing to stay stuck.
So ignorance is a choice.
Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is poverty. Ignorance is tragedy. Ignorance is illness. So step 1, change your input. Turn off the news for 30 minutes and turn on a biography of someone you admire. Step 2, keep a journal.
A journal? Not a to-do list?
No, not a to-do list. A journal is a tool to capture your life. Rohn called it gathering up the past. If you don't record your life, your wins, your losses, what you learned from that terrible meeting yesterday, you are doomed to repeat it. A journal turns your experience into wisdom. Without it, you just have experience. And plenty of people have experience, but no wisdom because they never stop to analyze it.
It's the difference between having 10 years of experience and having 1 year of experience repeated 10 times.
Bingo. You have to study your own life like a scientist. Like, why did that go wrong? Why did I react that way? That is working on yourself. That is the hard work. It's much easier to just turn on the TV and zone out. But that zoning out, that's what leads to the heavy regret later.
It feels like we're talking about taking radical responsibility.
We are, and that's the hardest pill to swallow. It's easy to blame the government, the taxes, the weather, the traffic, the negative relatives. But Rohn's philosophy is, you can't change the seasons, but you can change the sails.
And the wind blows on us all.
The same wind blows on us all, the wind of disaster, the wind of opportunity. The difference isn't the blowing of the wind, it's the set of the sail. And who sets the sail? You do. By the way you think, the way you speak, the skills you develop.
I want to circle back to something you touched on earlier, the fortune. Because I think people might misinterpret this as just pure capitalism. But when Rohn talks about the good life, he's painting a broader picture, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. The fortune isn't just the bank account, it's the lifestyle. It's the ability to appreciate a symphony. It's the ability to have a conversation with a child that inspires them. It's the ability to walk into a room and lift the energy just by being there. That is a fortune. And you can't buy that. You have to build it.
It's interesting, but the more we talk, the more I realize that working on your job is about survival, but working on yourself is about design.
Yes, design versus drift. Most people drift through life. They accept whatever wages are offered, whatever relationships happen to come along. They are leaves in the wind. Rohn is asking us to be the captain. And sure, being the captain is harder. You have to stay awake while others sleep. You have to study the charts. But the captain gets to choose the destination. The leaf just goes where the wind takes it.
And usually the wind takes you nowhere good.
Or it takes you to the gutter. Gravity is always pulling down. Entropy is always pulling things apart. If you don't have an active plan for your own growth, you are automatically slowly decaying. There is no neutral ground. You're either growing or dying.
That's a sobering thought to start winding down with. No neutral ground.
It should be sobering. It should light a fire. Because here's the good news. We talked about the heaviness of regret, but we should talk about the lightness of transformation.
Go on.
You can change. That is the miracle. You are not a tree. You can pick up your roots and move. You can learn a new language in a year. You can completely transform your body in 6 months. You can double your income. You can change your entire philosophy. It starts the moment you decide that good enough is no longer good enough.
It starts when you look in the mirror and say, I'm the problem, but I'm also the solution.
Exactly. The treasure isn't in the job market. It's not in the crypto market. The treasure is in you. You are the gold mine, but you have to dig, you have to refine, you have to polish.
So as we wrap this up, let's give the listeners a final image to hold on to. We started with that Friday evening feeling of emptiness. How do we want them to feel next Friday?
I want them to feel the exhaustion of the winter, the good tired.
The good tired.
Yeah, the feeling that you didn't just survive the week, but that you utilized it, that you planted seeds, that you read the pages, that you had the tough conversations. I want them to imagine themselves 5 years from now walking down the street, that future version of you. Are they walking tall? Are they confident? Are they generous?
And that person doesn't just appear by magic.
No. That person is built by the decisions you make today, right now. When this podcast ends, you have a choice. You can go back to sleep metaphorically, or you can pick up a book. You can write down a goal. You can start the work.
The work on yourself.
The most important work there is. Because ultimately what you get in life is important, but who you become is everything.
Who you become is everything. I think we'll leave it right there.
Make it a good life.
Thanks for listening.